Welcome to number 200, Denise. We did it.
200. Woo! Can you believe this, from that first really clunky intro video that we tried to record so many years ago to this?
And that was embarrassing, wasn't it? That was really embarrassing. But
it was fun, though.
We're 4 years in, so we're doing 50 of these a year, essentially one a week, take off the holidays. And we asked for suggestions for number 200. And what was suggested, which I think is a great idea, is to think about backward design. So we're going to spend a minute with that. We're not going to tear it up and make it too big a deal. But I think it's important for people to realize that a lot of these things that we talk about, I talk about in my books, and what we talk about in these videos is a philosophy for instructional design. And one of the things that's been out there for a long time, I've never heard much discussion about it, but I think it's important, is this notion of the backward design model. And of course, we talk about models. We're not going to go too deep into that. But it's the notion that you have to start with where you want people to be. And how many times have we said, okay, let's look at them going out the door, shutting off the computer at the last time. What have they got that they didn't have before? And so the people that put this together, I think, really were onto something. So Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe were the ones that did the backward design model, published on it. Really good stuff. You want to read up on it. But they have three elements of it. And first one is identify desired results. The second is determine acceptance evidence or acceptable evidence. And the third is plan learning experience and instruction. So if we look at these three, then we got how many out of Addie? 4, right? The only thing that's not in this model is implementation. And I don't think that that's a downside for what they put together, because I absolutely agree with what they're saying. And how many times, Denise, have we said, always start with that end product and build backwards? And we've even talked about it with working with subject matter experts. Okay, have them say what that last exit competency is, and then tell me what's the thing in front of it. What's the thing in front of that? And one of the turning points for me as an instructional designer was getting comfortable with starting at the end. This whole notion of let's identify what this product needs to look like. Let's identify these learner competencies at the end of this. And now we have this picture on the wall. And I used to say to designers that I was training, take a picture of one of your learners and put it up on the wall where you can see it every time you're working on this project. I want you to look at them, and I want you to think about, what are they going to be able to do that they couldn't do when they started this? So when we look at what Wiggins and McTighe have done, they're saying the same things in their model. They're saying identify the exit competencies, think about how you're going to evaluate, which is the second part of this. And we always talk endlessly, and I'm sure boringly, about how important evaluation is at the level 2 anyway. And then go in and create the product, which we would call design and development. So absent implementation, what we're talking about in backward design is exactly what we talk about all the time on here, Denise.
Yeah, and an analogy came to my mind as you were talking about this. Somebody who cooks, they have a recipe in front of them. They wouldn't dare probably try to make this recipe without knowing what the end result is going to look like. If you are going to have a dinner party with 10 people sitting at your dining table, you want to know what that end result, that platter, is going to look like. And so that's really, in my mind, a simplistic way to look at this, but it really is a good analogy. If I'm going to have a big bowl of pasta, that's the end result. I want it to look delicious. I want it to be creamy and yummy. I got to know, okay, that's what I want. Now, how do I get there? And then that's where it all begins. The building blocks of how do I get to that final result? Simplistic, but for those who like analogies, it's an analogy you can think about.
I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't thought about it that way. But what is so cool about what you're saying is, how many cookbooks start with a picture of the finished product? Okay, this is what your dish is going or should look like. If I was cooking it, it wouldn't look anything like that, because, I do man things. But, generally what you want to put out is, okay, what's this going to look like when we're done? And you've defined it. Okay, it's going to be pasta, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And now I'm going to work towards making it look like that. This is how I'm hopefully going to follow this recipe. And your recipe is what? Your instructor guide and your design and everything else. That's a great analogy. And I think it's so right on product is always picture the exit. Always look at what we want to accomplish and then figure out how to get there. Because I can assure you, most novice designers start with this, okay, well, I got to get to here, but what do I do first? What do I do second? No, what do you do last? And what's the thing you do before last and before last and all the way through that. And I really think this is something that learning designers, instructional designers, whatever you're calling yourself, this is something that you have to be incredibly comfortable with. This needs to be second nature to you, is defining that product, looking at that learner as they leave your product. What are they going to be able to do?
Exactly. It goes back to those ABCD elements that we talk about, the behavioral objectives. And really, to me, that's whenever I design something, I'm always thinking about those terminal and enabling objectives. And that's kind of how I would approach backwards design, is I'm looking at those objectives of what are they going to be able to do by the end of this and to what degree, because that's going to tell me how I'm going to evaluate them as well. So you've got to have that critical, and to what degree are they going to be able to do this given the conditions, given a lecture, given a PowerPoint presentation, given a group discussion, whatever those might look like. What is that audience member going to be able to do by the end, and to what degree? So with those elements, that's how I backward design, is I look at that's the criticality. That's what needs to be done. By the time they walk out that door, they need to be able to do these 4 things, these 10 things, these 100 things, whatever it might be. How do I get them there? And how do I evaluate that?
Yeah. So I think this is perfect. I love the idea. Thank you for the suggestions for 200. If you notice anything different in 200, let us know. And we're going to go on from here. So 4 years, 200 videos. How many recording sessions? Way more than 200. I think we have spent about 3 or 4 months together on here trying to produce this product. And as I always say, you are 99% of this, because you do all the background work, you do all the engineering, you do all the make it look nice. To make me look nice is a minor miracle, and I do appreciate that. We could just do something, maybe, my blonde hair, if we could darken that up. But so all of you that have been here with us, all 650 some of you that are subscribers, all the people that watch this channel, thank you. It really means the world to us. And just remember, we're trying to create a community here. That's all. We just want to support those that we work with, those that we're teaching, and most certainly those that we're teaching to, our learning populations.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.